Today I'm going to show you how to paint a wintry forest scene in First Light. For this I'm going to use some water mixable oils, which I fell in love with some years ago because you don't need to use any thinners with them, just water, saves on all the headaches in the studio. I've pre-prepared a 30 by 30 canvas board using some texture paste which I put on with a palette knife. That takes about 2 hours to dry. Then I've put a mixture of cadmium red deep and yellow ochre acrylic over the top. Let it dry and just put some masking tape down the sides here, which will be our trees later. Okay, so I'm using a 20 filbert brush. And I'm going to only use this apart from when I'm using a palette knife and my blending brush, or what I like to call my decorator's brush. So that's all we're going to need today. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with some ivory black. I'm just putting a little bit on my brush here, and I'm going to put this in around about here to signify the bottom of the forest there and the top of the foliage. So I'm working this in quite thickly behind the masking tape here. Just go over the top of it all the way across to there. Now I'm going to pick up some ultramarine onto my brush, and this I'm going to work into just the top edge of the black, taking this all the way across just to give it a lovely inky colour. So we're just replicating this depth of colour in the sky and the base of the forest at first light on a wintry day. Now into that I'm just going to put a few touches of green. It's yellowish green, that's the name of it. I'm just going to pop that in there. And I'm going to wash my brush and dry it off thoroughly here. And now I'm going to put some white, titanium white, into the top edge of this. And this is going to be our sky glinting through the trees in the forest. So it's good to pick up a little bit of the other colours as we go through. I'm not too worried about covering absolutely all the board because it's nice to get the underpainting to come through, and it's providing us with a lovely glow behind the painting as we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to feather this into here a little bit. Just put a bit of blue up there. Now I'm going to switch to my blending brush. I'm just going to create a nice smooth sky with the blending brush. Okay. I think what I might do as well is just pull it across like this behind those trees, just to give the impression of the light just peeping through, starting to peep through first thing in the morning. Right, I'll put that down. Now, nice clean brush. Dry that off again. Now, I'm going to put some burnt sienna into some white here. And I think a little bit of cadmium yellow as well. And this I'm going to paint in a wedge shape coming down here. And this is going to be our grass, the tops of our grass. A little bit of black on that, so just make it a bit lighter. Okay, so we're just going in here with the burnt sienna. Nice wedge shape, just a band on its own for now, underneath that black. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to feather, using my brush, the edge of this colour into the black. Create that lovely, soft texture of some grasses just coming up to the forest floor there. Right, so I'm going to wash my brush again. And this time I'm going to go in with some grey blue. So easy to use this water-soluble oil. It's just fantastic. This is going to be just grazed across, so you're picking up all the lovely texture underneath that's been created with the texture paste. And all the way across the bottom edge here. Okay, lovely. Okay, so I'm just going to leave my brush in there for now. Now I'm going to peel off the masking tape that I put on before. I love doing this bit. So it just shows the underpainting. Okay, now we're going to switch to the palette knife. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick up some white and cadmium yellow. I'm just going to put it over here, mix it with some yellow. And to the top section of the trees, I'm going to just graze with the palette knife down over the areas where the masking tape was. Okay, so if you use it quite lightly, graze it over there, it'll pick up textures underneath. And hopefully you will get some lovely trees appearing before your very eyes. A little bit of magic here. Now the light's catching them at that point, but down here I'm going to put some burnt sienna. Just pull that down there. It's a little bit more yellow. Okay, down there, just the bottoms of the trees. Touch of white, yellow over the top. Doesn't matter how thickly it goes on. That's the beauty of this kind of style of painting. Nice, loose, impressionistic style. Right, I'm going to get a little bit more of this burnt sienna. And now I'm going to pop a little bit of ultramarine blue into that. So, burnt sienna and the blue. It's that beautiful colour, look. And this we're going to put down the right hand side of the trees. So this is the bit in the shadow. What I'm doing is I'm just pulling it over on the right hand side. So you have to load up quite a bit on your knife. Pull it down all the way to give your trees a lovely shadow. And I'm going to pick up some cadmium red and some yellow, and I'm going to make some branches coming across here, just catching the light there. Maybe a couple up here, for good measure, balance. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to get some white, and I'm going to pop this into the foreground, but I'm going to graze it across the texture here to just create this lovely frosty effect in the foreground. Okay. And then wipe the knife off, switch to the brush, and I'm just going to soften that into the browny colour above, sort of creating some grasses as I'm going. Okay, a little bit of the grey blue over this side, just to give it a bit of balance, because that's quite a dark corner, so we want to balance it on this side. Now I'm just going to go in with some cadmium yellow just across the centre here, just with the knife. where the light's just catching the tops of those grasses. And again, I'm going to soften that off with my brush, just to give it a little shot of colour, a little pop of colour, just across the centre there. I'm going to get some black. I'm just going to give my painting some weight on the right hand side. So that black goes in there. Just creates also a little bit of shadow under the trees. And then I'm just going to perhaps put a little bit under here as well. So the final thing to do is I get my knife and I'm just going to scratch through a little bit more detail. So I'm going to put a couple of trees into the background here. So it's a forest after all. So we want to sort of just suggest there's a few more bits and pieces going on there. And then we want a nice scratchy texture in here. Imagine frosty texture. And this is where all your lovely underpainting comes into its own. You're scratching through, give it loads of nice texture. And there we go, an impression of a frosty morning in the woods in water mixable oils and a palette knife.